Hi, and welcome to Care for Creatives Community Conversations. Care for Creatives is a partnership between George Washington University and the DC Creative Affairs Office. This program is focused on two things: providing the community with conversations about mental health and creatives, and offering pay-what-you-can therapy and mental health support services through the Community Counseling Services Center at the GWU Foggy Bottom campus. Today's guest is podcast, web series host, and author George Worrell. George, it is so nice to meet you today.
Thank you for having me. The place looks, I like what you did with the place.
Thank you very much. I wish I could take credit.
Oh my God, this is great. Thank you. And I love what you do and what's going on, and thank you for having me.
Of course. I am so interested to get to know more about you and to learn as much as I can about the work you're doing, but also, because this is my area of focus, how mental health and taking care of your own mental health has really kind of fed into the work that you do and helped you maintain it.
Yeah, I think, well, starting off, you know, I'm from Atlantic City, New Jersey, it's a small town. I'm a recovering alcoholic of 29 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and always a wonderful perspective about fashion. And finally, after getting clean, finding out the things that I did well, which was party planning, event planning, and fashion. So that's how I started my company. But without all of the, you know, storybook things that come with, you know, college and all of those things, I just kind of tested it out and did it.
Yeah.
But as I found as I got older, is that mental health played a really big role because I based what I was telling my clients on how I felt when I was actively in alcoholism, meaning inner, outer, and then your clothes. So if I had on a fabulous outfit, inside, I still felt like crap, you know, so that buying a $10,000 dress or buying a new suit doesn't necessarily make you whole or make you better. You want to start from the inside out. So it was inner, things that are going on with you, writing, therapy. And then secondly, hair, skin, teeth, then your clothes. Your clothes are last. I think a lot of times people go to their clothes first. So that was a perspective that, something that nobody could challenge me on because I personally knew it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so when people come up with theories and stuff like that, they're like, oh, you know, this study showed this. The study of 29 years clean or maybe 10 years of using showed me that this worked. And it worked well. It was a theory that I had, or have.
Yeah. So I'm just going to say I love that, and I can relate to it because as a therapist for 22 years, I feel like there's a lot of theory out there, and people come at me with research, and I go, yes, I agree, we have to listen to that, but also, I've been doing this for 22 years, and there's just things that you know. And that sounds like that approach kind of came from who you are as a person.
Yeah, it came from my parents, my background. At 62, so I was privileged to grow up in the late 60s, 70s, but my parents instilled a self-awareness of who we were or who we are. Especially my father's side, because they grew up in North Carolina during Jim Crow. But they did not allow what was going on to make them feel less. I just always thought that I could at least try something and see if it worked out. Like, I've been an Uber driver, I studied for the flight attendance test, which I didn't pass the test. You know, when you have to do when the attendant comes on and says, you know, demonstrates the mass and all that, I couldn't get it. I was like, but I tried it. And I would hear older people say, if I had this to do over again, I would do it differently. And as a young person, I said, I'd never want to say that. I want to try at least things that I see that I want to do. and see if it works out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't mean that I didn't try it. You know?
Yeah.
So that's an encouraging thing for me, I thought.
Yeah. No, it's really, I feel like what you're describing, so I ascribe to a theory called narrative therapy, which talks about the fact that the narratives that we tell ourselves about ourselves and our lives shape what we predict is possible. And so I just hear in what you're saying this legacy of resilience from your parents, who had narratives about their own experience in spite of growing up in an era where it seemed almost maybe impossible.
Yeah.
They had narratives that said we can overcome.
Yeah, and you pretty much did what you were told. I said to you earlier that I pretty much, if my parents said go to the corner and turn right, I went halfway and turned left. But there was something that I identified in myself, and hopefully people that are viewing and listening can think about, is that I always described myself as a steel magnolia, meaning inside tough as nails and outside, you know, funny, soft in areas, but extremely driven. And I think throughout my career, people underestimated me unless they really knew me. The things that I've been able to accomplish to date, I said, you know, in 1995 that this is enough. And started going to meetings and started going to AA. And I said, this is that. I don't know if I would have stayed had I not had that aha moment in AA, which was a gentleman came in and he said that he had gone to Las Vegas to see a fight first class and stayed at a wonderful hotel. And I'm like, bing, that's it. That I can have a wonderful, fabulous life, clean, that I can live in a wonderful apartment and house, or have wonderful clothes and do all those things that I grew up with, and really go after the dream.
Yeah.
So there's always a dreamer, just out, and at 62, I still do it. So writing a book, I wrote my first book because I knew that this was a political town, and I wanted to kind of put out there about my background, so it wasn't like, oh, I had this epiphany, I want to write a book, and you know, I'm a writer, and you know, it wasn't that. It was strategic. But it was also my first look at where I had been. And it brought out all of these things that were painful and what was rewarding. Some of them, you know, when I first got clean, there were 4 guys. We lived in a recovery house. And Mervyn was a cook, a chef at Legal Seafoods. He got me my first job.
Okay.
Mitchell and Reggie. And there was a camaraderie, a love of, we were all clean. Mitchell had this fabulous government job, and Reggie had a, you know, I was the only one that, you know, was figure out what I wanted to do. And they helped me. And I gave my first party at the recovery house and invited my friends, and it was themed. It was black, and everybody had to come in black and white. And my uncle Shane, who I miss dearly, cooked. And he made barbecue, and he brought one of those half barbecue things, trailer things, and made all the food and all. And that started everything. It started my thinking about event planning. It started about catering. I worked at Legal Seafoods for 5 years, and I figured out that I was a great employee, but the ideas that I was coming up with, my employers were taking them and using them. And at some point, I figured, you know, I could do this for me.
Right, why not do it for yourself?
And I did. I put my 2 weeks notice in at Kincaid's, and my partner at the time helped me designed the cards. The first company was called Events by Worrell. Two of my clients at the Kennedy Center and at Constitution Hall were my first clients.
Wow.
And I just never looked back. I just kept moving forward. And it's been quite a journey. It is a journey.
Yeah.
Not all good, a lot bad, but you still are on the journey, you still have the vision, and I've been blessed enough to surround myself with people, women, who tell me what I need to hear, when I need to hear it, and not what I want to hear when I want to hear it.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. So all of these things I thought about as a boy in Atlantic City, being on television, doing stuff like this, radio. I thought I would be an actor. I'm too old now. I probably won't remember my lines, but you know.
You could always try. It could be part
I could
of the
always
dream.
try, yeah, read. But happiness. That's the quest for me.
Yeah.
Is that inner happiness. It's there from time to time, but it's not all the time. And when I'm walking, like in New York or Washington, or you'll see someone, and they're naturally smiling. That's a goal. When you're walking and you're just unconsciously smiling, that's the within, that's the work, that's the, you're totally happy. And that's still the journey. I'm not unhappy, but I don't think I'm totally happy, because you're always, you know, thinking about stuff. You're, you know, with the show, you're fundraising, you know, you're booking your guest. It's life, you know, your dog, my dog Moses, you know, he has to go to the vet, you know, how much is it going to be this time, you know, that those kinds of things, which are happy problems, because I've had other problems that were not as
worse,
cute. Yeah. So,
but I think you're hitting on something important, which is that we can have kind of a foundation of happiness, but life, there's all kinds of emotions, right? We can't just have one all the time. So we're going to move in and out of it. But what I'm hearing you say is that you're part of the dream is to have that foundation of happiness where you're walking down the street, and when you're not thinking, you're smiling.
I'm smiling.
Yeah.
And it's real. And that it's not because of something. It's not because I'm going to lunch, or it's not because I'm going to meet someone I've not seen in a long time, which are great moments, but that inner, that I'm generally happy. And I guess, you know, I remember my first sponsor saying that I try not to forget is gratitude, to be grateful. About what's going on, what's happening, what's not happening. You know, I'm lucky to be at this agency and doing my show, and talking to people, that interest about what's going on. I'm very interested in people and what their thought processes and their journeys.
Can you tell me more about your show?
So it's called Inside Style.
Inside Style, okay.
And people think when they hear about style that it's fashion based, and it's not.
I'm your host, George Worrell.
It's about something that I grew up with, which was my parents' sense of style encumbered where we lived, our furniture, our friends, where they worked, all of those things. That's your personal style, and I'm interested in people's journey, their work history, how they got where they are, why they chose it, and how their personal sense of style, whether if it's jeans or a suit every day. And when people say, oh, I don't have style, yeah, you do. You do. And hearing those stories, that's what the show is about. So that somebody listening and watching, because it's YouTubed, it's filmed, that they will have that aha moment when you hear something that resonates or gives you that, you know, thought process. Also, to my other show, it's called Neighborhood Favorites, that we are filming where we go to businesses and we showcase them here in the District of Columbia. Same premise. I want to know why you started your business, how it's working out. Most people we've interviewed did not go to school or think that they would be in the field that they're in.
Really?
We had a woman who is a candle maker, and she started out working at NASA as a physicist. And,
Wow.
you know, yeah.
That's a big shift.
Yeah. We had a lawyer who now owns a record store. And it's just interesting. And I think when we take the time to know other people's history and culture, I think we have more in common than we don't. You know, I think as a whole, there was a place in Chicago that I used to go to as a restaurant where the seating was wherever there was a seat. So you would meet different people and you would be able to talk and communicate. Washington's like that now. New York, when I lived in New York, was very much like that. You had different areas that you would go in and see and talk with different people and try different foods and things like that. That was always interesting to me, to just kind of fellowship. And you know, I guarantee you will leave with more than what you came with. So those are exciting things. It's so funny we're talking about recovery because my latest book that will come out in February, my journey from darkness to light. It was dark, So we're talking about a little bit of coming out of that darkness and what the light was. Pretty much what we were talking about now, of just finding oneself and pursuing it. And the fear, I will say that fear is a great motivator. Great.
I like it,
It's worked for me. Because when I started doing television, nobody tells you anything. They expect you to know. They don't tell you where to look. They don't tell you anything.
Right.
So I started doing segments, fashion segments. And I had to channel that fear, the things that were going on in my stomach, into a joke. And then that would calm me, and now it's pretty much second nature. But that fear of writing, the fear of asking, the fear, all they can say is no.
Right.
I've been pitching myself for the past 18 years for segments on, you know, when I moved to New York, I hosted Martha Stewart's XM Radio because I saw an ad, and I figured, why not? I went, just like, hello, do you have any experience? Yes. You can say how much experience, but, you know, and I learned, and another woman, Michelle Wright, she said to me, she says, if you can't do it, employ or find somebody that can and learn. Try not to turn down opportunities that can work, you know.
Yeah, you've surrounded yourself by a lot of people that have really kind of, it sounds like, fed into your dream and helped you shape it. Yeah,
I think we're lucky enough or blessed enough if we can find someone that sees your vision or says, hey, I believe in this mission. I actually believe in you. I may not understand, you know, or I probably wouldn't naturally give to something, but I believe in you. So that means there's something about you that's resonating with other people, that you're doing some good work on yourself, I think.
I think you're pretty on track there.
I'm hoping so.
I'm hoping
so. Yeah, but
I'm wondering too. So I have so many more questions, George. What? I know that you do other work too. That you have a space for young creatives. Can you tell me about that?
So we do the Marion Barry Summer Youth Program, where we work with. It first started out doing resume building and all those kinds of things, and I thought that was kind of boring for me. And there were other organizations that were doing that. Okay. Stay in my lane and do something that was natural to me, which was fashion. and workforce development. Knowing yourself. So when you're going for an interview and that your resume may be stellar, but when the interviewer looks up and you're not properly groomed or properly dressed, everything that's on that piece of paper is going to be diminished.
Right.
So knowing that inner part about yourself and branding and what it is that's different about you doing the same thing. So I had to always identify, being an event planner, what was I doing different or unique than all the other event planners?
Yeah.
So I specialized in small fundraisers. So my first client was Warner Session, a friend I had known for years, and he allowed me to be myself. And he would do these morning fundraisers, and instead of, I would bring china, I would bring flutes, you know, instead of having paper products, I would have wait staff that was dressed with aprons. It would be so polished. And, you know, the chafing dishes were not the racks with the aluminum. They would be the really nice chafing dishes. I would have jazz playing.
Yeah.
The food would be superb. He would raise a lot of money. People would stay longer instead of having that generic, you know, maybe that's what other people would do, but I found that was my niche, to add a little bit of elegance to it. Same thing when I had my church accounts. Bishop Owens, Co-Pastor Susie allowed me. That's another thing. When someone allows you to be you, first, you have to know who you are.
Right.
I knew who I was, but it took a while for me to accept it. So once I accepted who I was, then I was able to flourish, and then the people could see it and then allow me to do my thing. So I would go into a room like when Joan Crawford and Mommy Dearest, that wall must come down. I saw in my head how this room should look.
Yeah.
And transformed it. And I just realized at some point that that was an innate gift for me to envision how something should look. And I was been lucky enough that people would pay me to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's a piece of that I want to know more about, which is you kind of glossed over. I had to know who I was first.
Yeah.
How did you find that? How did you tap into knowing and loving who you are, which I know are two different things?
This is so funny. My friend Shantice, I would say to her, does this look gay? And she says, you are gay. And it was just that, not so much in a derogatory thing, but it didn't matter how you look, but accept what it is. And that's another story about the names and all of those things that we can go into on another show. But the things that I were good at were probably more thought about as something women do. So the fashion piece, my aunt Irene was in retail, and she was just absolutely amazing. She was an innate salesman. She knew it looked great. So I think I inherited that.
Okay.
But what I forgot about is that my father had a brother who was a cobbler. And he had a brother who was a tailor. So the fashion piece, innately, that's something I should have really gravitated to, and it wasn't gay, straight, or anything. It was just something that was inherited. So it was, you know, in that era of, you know, the church and people around you, not necessarily my family. My family, my grandparents, my grandmothers absolutely adored me. My father's siblings and my mother's siblings loved me. It was never any of that inside the family. Maybe some stuff outside that made one feel insecure. And when you're an only child and a loner, your head, that's another thing, the committee. I call it the committee. Your head tells you things that are probably not true.
Oh, I love
Many
that.
times.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we used to call it the committee, turning the committee off.
Okay.
But slowly accepting who I was and embracing it, that I love scarves, that I love the way that I dress, I love me, not always. That's still a work in process. I would lie to you if I'd say, oh, I love me every day. I see the younger kids, they inspire me when we do the Marion Barry Summer Youth Program. If we have a multitude of personalities and kids, and they are just open and accepting and things that my generation was not. Nothing surprises them. Nothing is out of character. They all seem to embrace each other from whoever they are.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that about this generation. Yeah.
That's helped me. Seeing them being able to just be fluid about everything.
Yeah. Everything about them is fluid, you're right.
Yeah, so that's been helpful. You know what else has been helpful? Laughter. Laughter.
Yeah.
Not on someone else, but just, I come from a long line of storytellers. My parents are 84 and 85. They're going to kill me for telling that. But my mother wanted to go to her hometown. Her birthday was a couple of weeks ago. And my father doesn't drive long distance anymore. So I went home and we drove down. And to Goldsboro, North Carolina. Oh my God, the food was amazing. And my father saw his childhood friend that he had gone to school from first grade to now, Mr. Eddie and Miss Rose. They all got married the same month. They all knew each other.
Wow.
They both couples have been married 66 years. And Mr. Eddie, they came to pick up my parents, and they were telling stories, and being African American, if anybody's, the stories are hilarious, and we were telling them in the car and laughing, and so laughter for me has always been healthy with my friends. I don't have any close friends that we can't exchange funny stories.
Yeah.
Or my friend Shantice and I, we talk, her grandmother, and share stories with her and how we were growing up in situations, which makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, a world without laughter. It's not avoid.
It's not avoid.
Yeah.
Well, I just, first of all, thank you so much. This time has just flown by today.
And I've talked so much.
No, I feel like I've just gotten to learn so much, and just hearing your stories. As I said in the beginning, I am also someone who loves story. I think it is the most powerful shaper of human behavior and human experience. And so I just loved hearing your story today and getting to know more about you. And
thank you.
And hearing about all these factors, humor and resilience and loving yourself and sobriety.
I wouldn't have any of that without that. And thank you, because I'm usually in your seat, so it feels good to be able to sit and to answer and to chat. We'll actually have a conversation with you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, thank you. And thank all of you for joining us today. Until next time, stay creative, stay connected, and continue caring for yourselves and each other. I'd like to give a special thank you to Mayor Muriel Bowser and Director Latoya Foster for making this program possible. For more information on Care for Creatives, visit creativeaffairsdc.com.